Shut up and sit down.
Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very, very well, having a good Thursday. We're going to talk a little bit about the return of the Wednesday Night Raw Wars. Easy for me to say. The ratings are in, and it's followed the same pattern as we would usually expect to see, and we have expected to see with AEW and NXT in recent. This is how it works on the Wednesday Night Wars now, really, isn't it? That AEW comes out on top in total viewership and, most importantly, the 18 to 49 demo, and it's exactly what's happened with AEW and NXT this week. The ratings are in, and once again, AEW has come out on top with 886,000 live viewers, a 0.34 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic, whereas WWE NXT has come in at 689,000 live viewers and a 0.18 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic too. So once again, AEW Dynamite comes out victorious in total viewership and in the 18 to 49 demographic. Now, I think also what should be said about AEW Dynamite this week is not only have they come out on top in the total viewership, not only have they come out on top in the key demographic, the advertiser-friendly demographic, the one that all the advertising executives look at, all the television executives look at. In addition, AEW Dynamite is this week the number 3 ranked cable television program in the top 50 original cable telecast. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for AEW Dynamite. Sometimes you see that with Monday Night Raw. Sometimes they get into the top 50 they get in the top 3. But obviously the last week it wasn't the case because of Monday Night Football. But to be in the top 3 out of the top 50 original cable telecasts, that's a big deal for AEW Dynamite. So once again, a very successful night for them, a very successful ratings victory over NXT once again. You also look at it that NXT did a 0.18 in the 18 to 49 demographic. AEW Dynamite did a 0.34. That is nearly double the demographic there, in the rating in that demographic there, which is incredible, really, when you look at it. The only demographic in which NXT defeated AEW Dynamite in the ratings once again was that 50 plus bracket. They scored a 0.36, whereas AEW Dynamite scored a 0.32. Again, that is very significant because usually that's the only demographic that NXT beats AEW Dynamite is the 50 plus. And you can look at that in many different ways. Why does NXT usually beat them in there? I think it's just because that they are your diehard WWE fans that will follow Raw, SmackDown, and now NXT, and have been for a very, very long time. And they know what they like. They like WWE, and that's it. And I think it just goes to show that the modern day professional wrestling fan doesn't really tune in to WWE anymore, I think. And I think it's old WWE fans liking what they like. And that's why NXT defeats AEW in the 50 plus demographic most weeks. But this week, once again, NXT has done that. But it's closer than I think it has been previously. Usually NXT pretty much dominates that 50 plus demographic, but this time they're only doing a 0.36 to AEW's 0.32. There is not a lot in that. Whereas in comparison, in the demographic where everyone does really look to, the 18 to 49, you're getting NXT doing a 0.18 and AEW doing a 0.34, which really says where the power lies, and that is with AEW Dynamite at the moment. And then in terms of total viewership, like I said, it's still significantly larger when it comes to AEW Dynamite as opposed to NXT. Obviously, the thing that a lot of people are going to look at, and my eyes were first drawn to with the move back to Wednesday nights, is both shows went down. Both shows went down, which shows that I think this argument now that competition is a good thing is kind of dead. I feel like the evidence is there now. You've had 2-3 weeks now where AEW Dynamite and NXT haven't been in competition opposite each other. you had NXT on Tuesday nights, NXT Super Tuesdays, and you had AEW Dynamite either on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night, and you didn't have them in competition with each other last week, or at least the 2 weeks. Let's just look at the 2 weeks, right, where NXT has been on Tuesdays. Those 2 weeks that AEW Dynamite was in its usual time slot unopposed, it did over 900,000 live viewers and over 1 million live viewers. Once it has NXT back in competition, it still defeats NXT, but it goes down to 886,000 live viewers, which is still a big number and a good number for AEW, but it does show that NXT does take viewers away from AEW Dynamite, and regardless of NXT's number, which has gone down because it can't handle the competition of AEW Dynamite, NXT's number's gone down. But I think if Vince McMahon, if you got in the head of Vince McMahon, and Lord knows why I would want to do that, because who actually can? Because I don't think anyone has ever been able to get in the mind of that man. But I think if Vince McMahon looks at those numbers, sure, he absolutely hates losing to AEW Dynamite every week, and I think it's just got to the point now where he's kind of accepted that that's the case, but he hates losing to AEW Dynamite every week. But the thing that I think he's very happy with is that it's taken viewers away from AEW Dynamite, and maybe that's me being quite cynical. Maybe that's me thinking of, the dystopian side of things and going, oh, he just wants to take viewers away from AEW Dynamite, but those are the facts. Those are the facts. That's all he really cares about, and that is why NXT was moved to Wednesday in the first place. NXT is one big counter program to AEW Dynamite. This is nothing new. So these ratings, again, they're not surprising. None of it's surprising. It's not surprising that AEW beat NXT in total viewership. It's not surprising that AEW beat NXT in the 18 to 49 demographic. It's not surprising that both shows, their viewership went down once they started competing again. That's Vince McMahon's point. Vince McMahon putting NXT on Tuesday nights, 2 hours on USA Network, was to muddy the water here. It was to take viewers away from AEW Dynamite, which it continues to do, but I think maybe he thought that NXT was going to roundly defeat AEW Dynamite, and that's not the case. It hasn't done that. So that's the case of things right now, and until NXT decides to move to Tuesdays, which, again, I don't see it. I just don't see it, because I just don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think... I can't see that happening. I'll be really honest. I can't see that happening, because I can't see Vince McMahon ever conceding a fight. Ever. Because he'll never do that. He'll never do that. As long as he's taking one viewer away from AEW Dynamite, he will keep NXT on Wednesday nights. Those are the facts. That's all he cares about, is taking viewers away from AEW Dynamite, and that's the case. I think another interesting fact here, and you can kind of get lost in the ratings, you can kind of get lost in the demographics and what do they really mean and all this kind of stuff. But there are a couple of things that I think are very, very interesting here, is that you look at the 18 to 34 demographic. AEW Dynamite, as far as I can see, got the highest rated 18 to 34, the highest rated 18 to 34 demographic out of the top 50 original cable telecasts. That's crazy as well. So obviously we talk about the 18 to 49 demographic here, but AEW is getting the top 18 to 34. So that is prime young audience. That is younger than the 18 to 49. That is serious prime audience. It's very, very impressive. Let's check the chat here. Ken Goku says SmackDown did a demo of 0.60 last week. Yeah, and they absolutely did. They absolutely did. My counter argument to that would be SmackDown is on network television, which is much easier to view, and SmackDown has been going for over 20 years. And it's ingrained in a company that has been around for even longer than that. And WWE, they should be doing numbers like that on network television. AEW on cable TV, and it's only been around for 18 months at this point. It's incredibly impressive. It's incredibly impressive. Fiery Jack says SmackDown sucks. Well, I wouldn't go that far. I would say that SmackDown's probably been the best WWE show recently. I just think at this point, and the reason that I do these rating shows is because I think it's important to talk about the conversation that, one, they do matter. People will say that ratings don't matter in 2020, and they do. They may not matter to some fans, but they're a topic of conversation, which is one. Two, they do matter to the networks. And three, they matter to the advertising networks too, and the advertising executives, and that's where you get your money. That's where you get your money. That's where your television networks get their money. So they still do matter. And especially in a pandemic, when you don't have so many other factors, you don't have crowd reaction, you don't have merchandise numbers inside the building, television ratings have become more important because you can truly see what is over when you come to those quarter-hour ratings and you come to the overall rating. So that's the case. That is exactly the case. Now, I think also what's worth considering, and again, I think I do stress you can get lost in these ratings, and you can sort of look at these and go, that's a load of BS, that's a load of BS. Once again, I mentioned that AEW not only was number one in the total people in the 18 to 34 demographic, but they were also top in the males of the 18 to 49 demographic too, which again shows you that if the advertisers are looking at these numbers from AEW, and I don't want to sound like Tony Khan, I don't want to sound like Chris Jericho, but that total viewership, I don't think they're bothered. I really don't think they're massively bothered. If AEW's in an advertising pitch meeting and they're trying to get sponsors on their shows, they can say, yeah, by the way, we're number one in males 18 to 49 on Wednesday nights. That's pretty damn good. And they can say, and we're also number one in people 18 to 34 on Wednesday nights. And that's going to get advertisers, that's going to perk up their ears and go, oh, okay. Now, what WWE's got going for them is that the fact they're WWE and they're a more recognizable name and more people know who they are. And the only demographic that they're winning is the people over 50 plus, which again, to me, is those ingrained WWE fans that will stick with them through thick and thin. And I'm not one to bash NXT. I'm a fan of NXT. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want that to come across as, oh, this guy's an NXT basher and this guy's a WWE basher, because I'm not. I'm a fan of both. I'm a fan of professional wrestling. But these things need to be talked about, and I am part of the group of people that says that NXT does need it, and what's needed and what actually happens is two different things. But NXT does need to move to a different night. It does need to, but will it? No, it won't. And I think maybe eventually Vince McMahon's hand might be forced by the likes of the USA Network, by the likes of Triple H. I think eventually they might force his hand and say, look, I know you want to take viewers away from AEW Dynamite, and I know if we move off of Wednesdays, Dynamite most likely is going to be close or over that 1 million mark every Wednesday night, but NXT's dying here. It's just getting trounced every single week. If we go to Tuesdays, we can build the brand back up. We can get more viewers on and we can make more money. More people tune in and they can get those demos up, because let's face it, NXT did a 0.18 in the 18 to 49 demo last night, and that's in opposition to AEW. They're not doing that on a Tuesday. They'll do a better number on a Tuesday because more people in that demographic won't be watching Dynamite. That's how that works. And I do subscribe to that nature that AEW's audience and NXT's audience are different. I think they are different because you look at the demos, they absolutely are. NXT's audience is an older audience. AEW's audience is a younger audience. If they switch to different nights, are all of those AEW viewers going to go to NXT? No, I don't think so, because I think a lot of them are turned off WWE viewers, but they can do better if they don't have the competition. And I think at this point, the idea that competition on the same night helps the business thrive, maybe that was a bit of an old hat idea. Maybe that was something that did work in the 1990s with the Monday Night Wars, but it's not working in 2020 in the Wednesday Night Wars. Competition in terms of having different companies is a good thing and gives wrestlers places to work, but in reality, is it what's best for the program and for the ratings? No. I don't think it's got more people watching, because you look at the numbers, it hasn't. Most weeks, you have roughly 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 million people watching on a Wednesday. It's pretty much been the case since the start of the Wednesday Night Wars that I would hazard to guess that the total audience for Wednesday Night Wrestling hasn't actually increased that much, if at all. It's pretty much the same group of people that were watching back in October last year to what we're watching last night. So the idea that this whole Wednesday Night Wars thing has been a positive to grow the audience on Wednesday nights, I don't think it's the case. I think the competition or whatever is kind of corroding itself. They are going after the same pool of viewers every week, really. I think I would hazard to say that. Ken Goku says even Sucky Raw did a 0.5 in the demo. They did, and again, that's because Raw's been on the air on Monday nights on the USA Network, on and off, for over 25 years. And it always has been. I can't stress enough, obviously, if you're watching this stream and if you watch this channel, it's probably because you're a hardcore wrestling fan. The casual fan, which WWE and AEW looks for, that casual fan, they know, and even the lapsed fan who used to watch pro wrestling knows that Raw is on Monday nights. They do, because that's just how it's always been. It's like Monday Night Football. You know it's on every week. Even if you don't watch it, you know it's on. The difference is, if you're never familiar with this new company called AEW, you have no idea it's on Wednesday nights. Whereas if you're a lapsed WWE fan and you used to watch Monday Night Raw 15 years ago, you know that it used to be on. You go, oh yeah, I that Raw, that's on Monday nights, right? That's how it works. That's how it works. So Raw should be doing better numbers than that. Absolutely. They're WWE on Monday nights in primetime TV, and they've had the same time slot and same night of broadcast for over 25 years. They should be doing those better numbers. AEW, the fact that they're 18 months or a year, less than a year really, into broadcasting on TNT, the fact that they're the number one ranked show in males between 18 to 49 and number one ranks in people 18 to 34 is unbelievable. That's a fantastic achievement. Last night they were the number 3 ranked show on cable. That's incredible. That's incredible. Not bad for a t-shirt company that just does blood and guts, right? Not bad at all. Brian says USA/Fox has to be thinking we are paying all this money. Meanwhile, TNT is paying $46 million for a top show. Well, again, it's difficult not to get lost in the numbers here. SmackDown last week was the number one ranked show pretty much in the 18 to 49 on network TV in that Friday time slot. So they are doing well. SmackDown is doing relatively well. I think Fox is probably still concerned that you look at SmackDown's debut last year, they got nearly 4 million viewers, and now that they've returned to the Thunderdome, they're just over 2 million every week. I think Fox is happier with that, but I think Fox, if they were being brutally honest, they would say, why have we lost 50% of our total viewers in a year? And people will use the pandemic as an excuse, but that's not the exact reason why. The reason why is because some of the storytelling on SmackDown hasn't been good enough. And that's not to say that Dynamite every week is brilliant, because it's not. I do think last night's show was particularly excellent. I do think last night's show was very, very good. And what I do want to touch on before we wrap up the stream is that I thought last night's episode of Dynamite, I really want to talk about that main event, because if you haven't watched that main event, that parking lot fight between the Best Friends and Santana and Ortiz, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible, and I don't want to, be the king of over-exaggerating and saying this was the best thing ever. But honestly, JR said it on commentary. He said that might be the best street fight I've ever called. And the thing is, I'll say the tag team names. If I say Santana and Ortiz and the Best Friends and a bit of Orange Cassidy in there, I know people that don't like AEW, and I know specifically people that don't like Orange Cassidy and Best Friends will say, well, there's no way that was good. I'm telling you, go watch it. Because even if you're not a fan of the Best Friends or Orange Cassidy, go watch that main event. Go watch that parking lot fight. It was phenomenal. I agree with JR. It's one of the best street fights, parking lot brawls I have ever seen. And historically, man, parking lot brawls are not easy to pull off. You look at that. Was it that NXT? What they did, the one with NXT with Adam Cole and the Velveteen Dream at NXT Takeover in Your House, that cinematic thing, and it just didn't work. It didn't work. Whereas last night's parking lot fight on Dynamite, man, that was just something else. It was absolutely spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Now, Tony Khan said on Twitter after the show, he said that was shot in one take. There was no cuts. There was no drops. The only thing that they had to edit in that was that Santana dropped an F-bomb during it, so they had to lower the audio. But apart from that, it was shot completely in one take, and it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal, which I loved, because this match is promoted as a parking lot fight. If this is real, and I hate to be one of those people that say, oh, if this was real, people do the whole, if this pro wrestling, if this was real. But legitimately, if you're having a fight in a parking lot, it is physical, it's gritty. You're not doing headlocks, takeovers, leapfrogs, and all that sort of stuff. You're beating the crap out of each other with weapons. There's blood everywhere. There's glass everywhere. You're taking horrible bumps into the cars and on the hoods of cars and on the trunks of cars and all of this sort of stuff. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened in this parking lot fight last night. And it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. Shout out to Trent as well, because he took one bump in this match where Santana and Ortiz got him up and kind of power bombed him through the windshield of a car. And I don't mean like the windshield was kind of gimmicked, because I don't know if it was or not. But dude, he went through that and he got so much glass in his back. And I cringed when I saw it. I did one of those. I threw my arms in the air because I knew that, one, that's going to hurt, and two, his back is going to be sliced open. It's glass. You don't mess around with glass. Even if it's, fake glass, sugar glass in professional wrestling, you do not mess around with glass, because that stuff will cut you up. And that's exactly what happened to Trent's back. His back was all messed up. He was bleeding profusely out of his back. Santana had got some juice as well. He's bleeding off the top of his head. Santana and Ortiz as well had their faces painted straight out of Dead Presidents, which I enjoyed. I love that reference too. And it was just brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And then, so the best friends get the victory. And as they're rounding up the show, and after they've got the victory, they go to Trent's mother's minivan, which has been all fixed up, and that's how the whole thing started. And I know some people will roll their eyes and go, oh, a mum's minivan, oh, great. But you thought, okay, they're being driven away in the minivan. What a great way to bookend the story, tell the story. They stop. Trent's mum puts her hand out of the window of the minivan and flips Santana and Ortiz the bird after everything that they said about her in recent weeks. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And honestly, like I said, I agree with JR that genuinely it's one of the best street fights, parking lot brawls that I've ever seen. And I've seen at this point about 20 years worth on either WWE TV or wherever. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was physical. I thought it was stiff. I thought that it elevated the best friends to an absolute new level. Because look, the best friends, they're very well liked in AEW, not just in the audience, but backstage too, because the reason why they're so well liked and they won a lot of people over was when they had those quarantine shows at the Nightmare Factory in Atlanta, Georgia, just as we were getting into lockdown at the start of the pandemic. They wrestled it was something ridiculous, like 5 shows in the space of a couple of hours to be on every episode of Dynamite, and they got a lot of plaudits because of that. So they got their shot at the AEW World Tag Team titles at Fyter Fest. And for me, that match at Fyter Fest between the best friends and Hangman Page and Kenny Omega just didn't do it for me. And I felt at the time that I was like, is this the biggest match that AEW can be doing on this TV special? And it just didn't do it. And I felt it was a bit of a letdown. And I thought, could they have done more? Were Trent and Chuck Taylor the best guys for that position? And in this feud with Santana and Ortiz, they've just gone to a new level. And I think last night showed that when they get serious, it's the same as Orange Cassidy in his feud with Chris Jericho. When they get serious, when they care, they can be absolute money. Chuck Taylor, I thought as well. Chuck Taylor is that guy he's always joking about, but last night in this parking lot fight, he was brutal. He was stiff as all how. And like I said, I thought Trent took some unbelievable bumps. You can't take those bumps every week, but you're not going to have parking lot fights every week. At least I hope not anyway. But I can't give enough credit for what I thought was just such a fantastic end to the show. Such a fantastic match, a fantastic spectacle. I actually liked that it wasn't really shot cinematic style, because I do think the cinematic match has been a bit of a crutch during this pandemic. And obviously I know why people have done it, and I know why companies have done it, because it's difficult to do wrestling in front of 0 people. And I thought that most of the time it's been done well, but I think everyone's seen their fill of cinematic wrestling for a while, right? I think everyone's kind of like, you know what, maybe I'm kind of done with the cinematic wrestling for a bit. Leave that till WrestleMania. We can maybe do another cinematic match at WrestleMania next year. I think everyone's a bit like, yeah, we're done with that. And of course, they could have shot this parking lot fight in a cinematic style. They absolutely could have, but they didn't. They just had a couple of cameras set up, and they had Shivani, Jim Ross, and Excalibur talking over it, and it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. So if you haven't watched it, I highly, highly, highly recommend to go watch that that parking lot fight because it was absolutely brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, and as I mentioned, I agree with JR. One of the best street fights, parking lot brawls that I've certainly seen in a long time. I don't want to say ever because I think that's ridiculous, and it's all obviously subjective to opinion, but I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I thought it was very, very well done, and I very enjoyed it. We've got some people in watching right now, so if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. We're on the road actually to 1,000 subscribers. We're getting closer every single day, and I really appreciate everyone that's new to the channel, everyone that has recently subscribed. At the moment, we're on 834 subscribers on that road to 1,000, so if you haven't already, please do subscribe. If you've enjoyed the stream, please do smash a like on the like button as well. It really just helps out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos before. So if you're just joining us now, the ratings are in for last night's edition of the Wednesday Night Wars. AEW Dynamite once again defeats NXT in total viewership and in the key 18 to 49 demographic. AEW Dynamite scored 886,000 live viewers in opposition to NXT's 689,000 live viewers. AEW Dynamite scored a 0.34 in the 18 to 49 key demographic in comparison to WWE NXT's 0.18. That is nearly double in the key 18 to 49 demographic to AEW Dynamite. Dynamite was the number 3 ranked show in the top 50 original cable telecasts for the night. They were also number 1 in males 18 to 49 and number 1 overall in 18 to 34 people. So a great night for AEW. It obviously will raise the question once again about NXT potentially moving to Tuesdays or moving nights. AEW isn't going to move nights. They don't need to. If both shows stay on Wednesday nights, AEW Dynamite is going to continue to win. The only way, in my opinion, and I've said this several times now, the only way that WWE NXT will be able to compete with AEW Dynamite on Wednesday nights is if they put some serious stars on that show. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, they can say as much as they want that NXT is not developmental, this is the main roster, this is a legitimate third brand, the same as Raw and SmackDown, but it's not. It's not, because it's still treated like developmental. It's still absolutely treated like developmental. You have guys on there that come up straight from the Performance Center, which should probably still be the deal, right? I'm not discrediting that. But you lose guys all the time. They just lost Keith Lee to Raw. They just lost Matt Riddle to SmackDown because they were called up to Raw and SmackDown. So Triple H can get funny every time that someone says called up and goes, it's not called up, they're getting moved across. But it's not, because who are NXT getting in exchange? No one. No one. If NXT wants to compete, and WWE truly wants NXT to compete with AEW on Wednesday nights, what do? They need to move some stars off the main roster onto NXT and make it a legitimate third brand. If WWE really wanted to compete, they'd move AJ Styles to Wednesday nights. They'd move Kevin Owens to Wednesday nights. They'd do that. They won't. They absolutely won't. But if they wanted to compete, that's what they would do. When has NXT been very successful in defeating AEW? Maybe not even in the demo, but in the total viewership on Wednesday nights. When has that happened? When they've had main roster stars on the show. The Great American Bash, they had Sasha Banks on both shows and Bayley on both shows. And on one of those shows, they had a winner-take-all title match that you can only really do once, right? That's when they beat them. Survivor Series last year, that build to Survivor Series, they beat AEW Dynamite. Why? Because they had multiple Raw and SmackDown stars on that show. They had Becky Lynch on that show, Drew McIntyre. All of those guys were on NXT during that build to Survivor Series. Why? Because NXT felt like a legitimate third brand, and they were the best episodes of NXT in my opinion. And they beat AEW Dynamite on those shows. So WWE knows what it has to do. WWE knows what it has to do. They have a choice. They have 3 choices. They can stay on Wednesday nights and do nothing, and they'll continue to lose in total viewership and the demo. They might win occasionally, but that would be it. The second choice, they can move to Tuesdays, and they can do better in the key demographic. They can do better in total viewership, and they could probably make more money from advertising revenue from USA Network. That's what USA and most of people in WWE wants. That's what Vince McMahon doesn't want, though. Vince McMahon wants option 1. Option 3, they can stay on Wednesday nights, but they can put proper stars on that roster. They can put AJ Styles. They can put Kevin Owens. Heck, do a Randy Orton. Make a statement. They won't, though. Because they need to protect, or they feel like they need to protect, Raw and SmackDown. And unless they put real stars on NXT, that's just going to be the case. And I don't mean that as a slight against Finn Balor. I don't mean it as a slight against Tommaso Ciampa, but you've got to look at who your competition is. Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley are former WWE champions. Chris Jericho is one of the biggest names in WWE history. Jon Moxley, it was a massive star in WWE. There is no one on that NXT roster right now that is the equivalent to the drawing power of Chris Jericho or Jon Moxley. There just isn't. There just isn't. People will say Finn Balor, but there is no proof of that. There is no proof of that he is a bigger draw than Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho, and he's just not. He just isn't. So until NXT puts a massive star, or WWE puts a massive star on NXT, they're going to lose. And that is just the simple fact of things. So they have the opportunity to change it. You've got the draft upcoming, and there's rumors that NXT could be involved with Raw and SmackDown, and I hope that they are, because I think they need to make that relationship with Raw and SmackDown and NXT a lot more fluid. I really do think so, because if you start picking off people from NXT to go to Raw or SmackDown, that's fine, that's the natural order of things. But there's so many guys on Raw and SmackDown at this point spinning their wheels that should go back to NXT. Ricochet, send him back to NXT. And I'm not saying having Ricochet on Wednesday night is going to win them the war against AEW, and just because Ricochet's on NXT, they're going to have more total viewers, or they're going to have a higher demographic, because maybe they're not. They're probably not, in reality of things, and there's a rumor that Ricochet's leaving at the end of his WWE contract anyway. There's rumors that there's one specific superstar that said, look, when my contract's up, I'm done, and people have put two and two together that that's Ricochet. I don't know if that's the case, but again, if he goes to AEW, then I don't think, again, if he went to AEW, I don't think the needle was going to move even more because he went to AEW. I don't think so. I just think if you look on paper and you weigh up star power, people that can draw a rating, AEW is always going to win that race. They just are. In the same way that if Chris Jericho went back to WWE, first of all, if Chris Jericho went back to WWE, he wouldn't be on NXT, because WWE would look at him and go, he's too big to be on NXT, which says to you WWE's opinion on NXT. That says it all. If Jon Moxley went back to WWE, which is never going to happen, by the way, but if Jon Moxley went back to WWE, they would never put him on NXT. They would never put him on NXT. They'd put him on Raw, or they'd put him on SmackDown, because they know that Jon Moxley can draw a rating. So what does WWE expect if Jon Moxley's on a program opposite NXT, which even in their minds is smaller than Raw and SmackDown, which they wouldn't have Jon Moxley on? They're going to lose. They're always going to lose. That's how it's going to work. So the only way that WWE can counter this is move to Tuesday, and then they can have a better number, and they'll probably make more money, and they would. Or two, put some stars on NXT, because that's what they've got to do. That's what they've got to do. And until they do that, they will lose every single time to AEW. But I don't think Vince McMahon cares. That's the thing. I don't think Vince McMahon truly, in his heart of hearts, cares. I think it annoys him that he's losing. Vince McMahon doesn't like to lose to any professional wrestling company, but I think at this point he's got over it. What he'll look at when he's looking at these ratings this week, he'll look at, okay, what did AEW do last week unopposed? They did over 1 million viewers, Mr. McMahon. Okay, what did they do this week with NXT in competition? They did 886,000. Gotcha. That's what he'll care about. That's what he'll care about. They'll then raise up the thing of, well, NXT went down quite a bit this week too, and we're down in the demo too. And AEW nearly doubled us in the key demographic. Yes, but they had less than they had last week, so we did our job. Because that's what NXT's for. NXT it's one big counter program. And I feel bad. I feel bad for the people on NXT. I really do. Because the people on the NXT brand truly, in their heart of hearts, are fighting the fight. They want NXT to be the best it possibly can. Triple H wants that brand to be the best it possibly can. Look at people like Finn Balor. Finn Balor, he's got the NXT Championship now. He's got that on his shoulder, and he is trying his very best to carry that brand once again and make it the best it can be. Adam Cole is the same. He's trying to make it the best it can be. People like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa have done everything. They've given everything to that brand to build it up to the level that it is today, and you can't take that away from them. But they ain't going to draw a bigger rating than Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley. They're just not. Unless they get some help, unless they get some backing. Because that's just how it is. It's the same way that if AEW Dynamite went opposite, I don't even say Raw, because maybe that, I don't know, that's an interesting proposition. But if AEW Dynamite went opposite SmackDown on a Friday, they'd get destroyed. They'd get absolutely destroyed. Why? Well, one, SmackDown's on network TV, but two, even at this point, SmackDown has the bigger stars, right? You've got Roman Reigns on their show. It's a massive draw. That's how that kind of deal works. They've got AJ Styles. They've got Jeff Hardy. They've got big names. And you can argue, well, are they as big as Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho? That's a discussion for another time. My point being is that you would say, well, SmackDown should win. They've got the biggest stars. It's the same argument with AEW and NXT. And I can't emphasize that enough. People saying, well, NXT needs to do this to change and all this sort of stuff. Realistically, what NXT needs to do if they want to win is get bigger stars on that brand. Because AEW at this point is still going up against WWE's developmental brand. And I know that might offend some people in NXT. I know that might offend some fans of NXT and say, NXT is not developmental. Well, it is. It is. It's still treated like developmental. Austin Theory, he's being punished right now, and some would say rightfully so. I'm not going to comment on that. But he's been punished by being sent back to developmental. It shows you their perception of NXT as a brand. That's how it works. That's how this works, and that's how this will continue to work in the future. And WWE, it's not as if they don't have options to change. You know, I'm still part of the thing is I don't think WWE NXT will move anytime soon because I don't think Vince McMahon will allow that. The only thing that could move NXT from Wednesday to Tuesday, I think, is if the USA Network said, look, sort this out, move it, or we're dropping the program. And I don't think they will because in reality, you know, NXT has done 689,000 last night, but in reality, that is 689,000 more viewers than USA Network would probably get on a Wednesday night from 8 to 10. And that's just the case. And so that's realistically, USA Network would want more viewers, and they probably do want a better demo, but it's more viewers than they would get on a Wednesday usually, so I don't think they really care either. If I'm going to be brutally honest, I think they're like, okay. So I think that's probably the case when it comes to USA. They'd want more, but they're happy. They're happy that they're getting more WWE. They love having WWE. USA Network as a network is on the slide. I was reading a report the other day that the USA Network's actually dropped out of the top 10 cable networks for the first time in ages. It got taken over by Ion last year, so Ion's got more viewers per annum than USA Network at this point, which shows you, probably goes hand in hand with WWE's declining rating, that maybe USA Network as a cable network is declining too, which is an interesting thought too. So there's a lot to break down there. I could go on for hours and hours talking about NXT, what it needs to change, AEW Dynamite, what that needs to improve on, and all that kind of stuff. But you've heard me talk about the Wednesday Night War ratings for nearly 40 minutes now, so we will leave it there. But once again, thank you very much for joining us here tonight. If you are new to the channel, please do smash a like on the like button. Really does help us out here on YouTube. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now. Thank you everyone who's put a message in the live chat tonight. But before we go, let's have a quick word from one of our presenters at Wrestle News 365. That's right, it's Manscaped. Thanks everyone for joining us. Speak to you soon. Support for Wrestle News 365 is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Now, Manscaped, for all of my UK fans out there, Manscaped just launched in the UK. Over here in the United Kingdom, we have gone for years and years and years without using the right tools for the job. But now you can be one of the first men in England to experience their life-changing product. But it's not just limited to all of the great fans over here in the UK. This offer goes worldwide, so all of my friends over in America and around the world that are listening to this offer still does apply for you. You can still use our code. But I've got to tell you a quick story first. Keep yourself proper, and a lot of the time I've been guilty of this, of using the wrong tools for the job. I've had incidences, I'm not afraid to say it, where things have been nicked, snagged, or in fact cut down there because I wasn't being careful enough and using the right equipment. Now that just shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. You don't want to be worrying about cutting yourself down there. Do you know how painful that is? I can tell you, it hurts quite a lot, and I wish and hope to God it never happens to me again, and it won't happen to me ever again because I'm using Manscaped products. That's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team has perfected the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created. Big statement, but it's absolutely true. They have just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0 in the UK. It's also available around the world as well. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. So those cuts and snags that I was telling you about before are a thing of the past. And let me tell you, when I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes so you can get a longer, perfect shave. And not only that, you don't want to be cutting yourself and trimming yourself all over the bathroom, getting hair all over the place. That's just disgusting. The lawnmower has a waterproof technology that allows you to groom in the shower, so no more mess. And one of the coolest features, one of my favorite features about the lawnmower, is the LED light which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming experience. So you can shave longer, you can shave more precisely, and you can shave in the shower. What more do I need to tell you? They've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology, and let's not forget about the charging stand. You can show off your mower loud and proud because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. So, if you are listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Let's get that bush to tush clean, and you can get 20% off and free shipping. Yeah, you heard me right there. 20% off and free shipping. All you have to do is use the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. Make your testes their besties. That's 20% off and free shipping. Not only are you getting 20% off, you're getting free shipping as well with the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.